Hi guys, this is Kian from Football Obsession. Today I'm with Alexei. I think I'm pronouncing your name right, aren't I?
Yeah, that's fine. That will
Yeah,
do.
yeah. Sorry, I'm probably not the first one to pronounce your name wrong. And my name's Kian, obviously. I don't mean to cause any offence there. But today we're going to be reviewing the Premier League game week. I just want to let you guys know, just while you're watching, in case you haven't seen, my Twitter account has been suspended at the moment. I am genuinely trying my best and a lot of my available time to get it back. I'm not sure if I will be able to get it back, but currently I'm on Twitter account that is at FTBLOBS, so football OBS, so football obsession. Just to let you guys know, that's why I've not got like the thing going across the screen. But we're going to be reviewing the Premier League game week, and very disappointing, wasn't it?
Yeah, wasn't fun, was it? Really?
No. Yeah. We'll get straight into the first game. Well, the joint first game. So obviously United, Aston Villa, and we both. Did you go to the game as well as me? Yeah.
Yeah, I was there.
Yeah.
Second time I've been in 3 days. Obviously, went Wednesday for West Ham. Yeah, it was just a bit miserable, really. It was one of those games that I've seen I feel like I've seen quite a few times. The cycle of the game, the way it got quite panicky quite quickly. But it was still quite shocking when they scored at the end. Like
it was very stressful.
It was just like a kick in the gut, wasn't it?
Yeah. I said to the lads behind me, I said, this feels like it's written for them to score. And I weren't just being negative for negative's sake. This was like, it must have been like not long to go, like 20 minutes to go. And it just felt the way the game was going. We had nothing going our way. The referee wasn't even. The referees are far from ideal in the Premier League anyway, and he wasn't giving anything. And I described it at the time, and fair enough, being quite reactionary, but genuinely one of the most stressful games I've ever been to. Obviously, we've been to Lou Van Gaal games, and them games are quite they were very dull. But it was one of the games. It felt like Sheffield United last season in the sense it was a very sort of, I don't know how to describe it, sort of like a sticky game where we can't really keep the ball. We can't even string a few passes together without losing it or without just mistouching it or whatever.
Well, the game that instantly came to my mind was because before Wednesday, I'd not been to a game and seen us lose since Burnley at home, which was 18. Obviously, that's because of COVID and obviously the big gap. But that was the last time I'd seen us lose at Old Trafford. And then obviously I saw us lose twice we saw twice in 3 days.
Yeah.
But the Villa game reminded me a bit of the Burnley game in the sense of like, it's just when they scored, it was just like, oh. And I think sometimes you just get a feeling at a game that it's not going to be your day. When Maguire and Shaw both went off, I was thinking, we're in trouble here. And obviously as well, like the penalty at the end, it just kind of summed it up. And I think there was a bit, I don't know what you think about this. I thought the atmosphere was a bit odd. Like,
I did too. Yeah.
Where do you sit normally?
In the East Stand, in lower East Stand. And I go with my uncle. However, we're not like directly next to each other. He's within like touching distance of me, and I've got anxiety. But I do sit in the East Stand. I think you sit in the Stretford end, don't you?
Yeah, so I'm in the TRA section. It's like Stretford lower. You know, like the
singing section, isn't it?
Yeah, a bit above the tunnel.
Yeah.
And like for Leeds and for Newcastle, it was like bouncing the whole time, and the whole ground was bouncing. I mean, do you remember? Like Newcastle was just the ground.
It was one of the best ever games I've been to. It's like I've had a season ticket for 9 years, and it was a bloody amazing atmosphere.
Yeah, the atmosphere was absolutely incredible, and the ground was like bouncing, you know. But yeah, I mean, it just felt a bit different on Saturday. I don't know why. I mean, I think the 12:30 thing doesn't help the atmosphere, to be honest, because I think some people have had to get up. For people who don't live in Manchester, obviously, like I know people who travel from like Worcester and Wales and all that, so they have to get up at like, 4 or 5 in the morning. So I guess that doesn't help. But it all felt a bit weird. But I think atmosphere-wise, it's got to be good tomorrow night.
Oh yeah, of course. We've got to. As much as obviously there's a call for the manager to be sacked or to be questioned upon, which I sort of agree with and I sort of don't. I'm sort of somewhere in between at the moment. we've got to get behind the team and get behind the players, as we generally always do as United fans. We've had teams like Gary Neville has sort of described it, the teams that are sort of you don't even like as a United team. For example, the 2018-19 team, there was a few players in there which it just weren't the right mix of people in general and personalities and players. However, now I feel like we've got a very, very good mix of personality and players, but and obviously we've still got a few weak links. Every team does, but it just, like you said, the atmosphere did feel very weird. But the performance, it gave me it gave me. I don't know if you remember the Watford game. It was just before Ollie got the permanent manager's job. It was quite a while back.
Yeah. Was
And I
it like
remember
2-1 or something?
Yeah, 2-1, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember being on the bus on the way home, and I said to my uncle, that was a very, very weird game to watch, in the sense it felt like we didn't deserve to win that game, and it felt like we didn't even play with a proper tactic or a position or any positions, etc. And that game felt the same, although we didn't win. And another thing, and I definitely want to ask you about it, because I've seen many people talking about it, and I say it a lot. We go 1-0 down a lot, and we're not always going to be coming from behind. It's going to be impossible sometimes. Let's say, for example, we go 1-0 down against Bayern Munich. If we got them in the Champions League as a hypothetical, we're not going to be able to just keep coming from 1-0 down. It's a bad thing and a good thing going 1-0 down and coming back. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult because, like you said, eventually, I mean, you can't just do it every week.
No,
it's not possible. But I mean, obviously, we used to do it a lot under Ferguson, but it's not. It doesn't feel the same as that, really, because
no.
under Ferguson, we also had a lot of games we won easily. I mean, I think what I will say about this team is kind of like you alluded to. It's, even though we're in a bit of trouble now, it's still really likable.
Yeah.
I still like going to games. I still love watching us play. I still like the players. I still like the manager. Whereas obviously before, like when Jose was about to leave or when Louis van Gaal was about to leave, it felt awful, didn't it? Like the
Yeah, the
end of
very
Jose.
toxic and very
Yeah.
tiring to go to games.
Yeah, like and obviously, I mean, I wasn't going to games then, but when Moyes was in charge, I didn't go to any games in the Moyes year because I couldn't get any tickets at that point. But like the end of the Moyes era was just like,
yeah,
terrible.
It's quite hard for me to remember back as I was quite young. Like I say, I'm 18 now, so I was about like 7. No, I was about 10, something like that. So it's obviously very hard to remember, but I remember. I don't know if you remember when we lost. It was a bad loss, 3-0 against Liverpool, and
Oh,
under Moyes.
yeah,
However,
that's my lowest point as a football fan, honestly.
yeah, because you sort of knew that United would like at that point, it was like a symbolic loss in the sense of we're not coming back for a long, long time here now.
Yeah.
And that game, I genuinely describe it as one of the best atmospheres I've ever seen at Old Trafford, and that's how I like it. Well, obviously not losing, but I like in the sense of get behind the team and get behind the manager, or maybe even
Do you
not
know
behind the
what?
manager, but yeah.
I've spoke to quite a lot of people about that game actually, like over the last few years, and they said it is one of the best atmospheres they've been at because it got to the point they were just ignoring the goals going in and just kept singing.
Yeah, 20 times it just kept bouncing around the ground.
Yeah, I think, you know, I don't think the atmosphere will turn toxic at all inside Old Trafford, and ultimately, it doesn't. To me, obviously, I'm quite biased because I like Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. I think he's done a good job as manager, but
Yeah.
it doesn't feel to me like we're at the point like when we lost 3-0 to Liverpool under
No.
Moyes, or 3-1 to Liverpool under Mourinho, or just the end under Van Gaal. It feels like we're kind of just a couple of little tweaks away from
Yeah, a
being all
super
right
team.
again.
Like
Which is
I keep saying, I was saying at the summer, obviously, I would still choose to get Ronaldo over anyone else. That's not a doubt for me. However, I think we're 1 or 2 positions away from sort of like what you would call a super team, like a great challenging team. And whether the manager is or isn't good enough, in my personal opinion, he's shown me that he can be good enough. Although he massively frustrated me on Saturday, I think that there's going to be a few very important games this season that sort of define our season. And I think this Villarreal one coming up is a huge game to define our season.
It really is. I think for Ollie personally as well, it just feels big because you can't really lose your first 2 Champions League games. You just can't. But
not in that group as well. That group, we were sort of glad about getting that sort of easy group, as we would have called it at the time.
And the problem we've got kind of is because we lost the Young Boys one. Now everyone's like, if we'd won against Young Boys and we had all these injuries, like whole defence was out, you'd kind of go, you don't want to draw, obviously, you want to win. But if we drew, you go,
it's not the end of the world. Yeah.
4 points, it's all right. But we now have to win. So even though we've got injuries, we put this pressure on ourselves.
Yeah.
But I just think like we don't, even though it doesn't feel great now, I still think Ollie's still not that far from just turning it around again.
I completely
agree. If we win the next 2 and then go on a decent run, and just if we'd kind of near the top,
we were very lucky that results went in our favour this weekend. Very lucky.
Yeah.
And Shaq Knows Ball has asked a question here about United and defining the season. He said, "How important is the Manchester derby this season?" He spelt season wrong, but he's corrected it in the next chat. How important would you say it is?
Yeah, it probably will be quite important because what usually happens is City tend to win more points against smaller teams than we do. So if you look at it, like last season, we drew away at West Brom. They beat West Brom 5-0, obviously the Sheffield United game. So, I mean, I think obviously beating City is going to be really important. I mean, it's difficult to say. I think we've got them in a few weeks, haven't we, in like November? I think it's difficult to say that's going to be a decider, but it depends on where we are. If we're level on points with them and we lose, it's not a decider.
No, yeah.
If we're really far behind and we lose, it might be. But the thing is with City, you can't let them beat you because they just get this like ridiculous momentum and can get so far away from you. Because I remember last season we were top and Liverpool were kind of top,
and that's when it sort of peaked. The season felt really good at that point.
Yeah, and it was United and Liverpool, and I remember speaking to some of my mates are Liverpool fans, and I was like, "Oh my god, like Liverpool United title race again! This is great." And out of nowhere, City just kind of won about 50 million games in a row.
Yeah,
and that was it. So we've got to be cautious about playing City. I mean, one thing about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer that no one can dispute is he's got Pep's number. Like
I was literally thinking that. Yeah,
it's mad. Like, but he beat him. We beat him once last year.
Yeah.
Well, and then was it 3 times the year before?
I think so, yeah, because I think we beat him in the League Cup. Was it League Cup?
Yeah, it was, yeah. So we beat, I mean, the guy's won at the Etihad 3 times.
Like to do that, not many teams go and do that. And obviously we're not saying that makes Ole Gunnar Solskjaer the best manager or better than Pep. It just makes him know how to beat Pep. I saw someone saying, I think it was Stephen Howson the other day. I don't know if you've seen the video. He was comparing sort of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer to, let's say, Louis van Gaal or Jose Mourinho. And he was saying, under Louis van Gaal or Jose Mourinho, we're going to go to a game trying to 0-0 the game. And it really did feel like that. And I remember seeing someone tweet something with like 11 results on the run. With us like 0-0, 0-0, 0-0, 1-0, just constantly barely any goals, if any. And with Ollie, it feels like he's going to go to a game more often than not. This weekend just gone being probably an anomaly to try and win the game. And I do respect that a lot about Ollie, although he's still got to improve. I completely agree. I am very like defensive of Ollie myself.
I think we've got that in common, haven't we?
yeah. I can't just take away the connection between. Obviously, I wasn't alive for the '99, and I'm not sure you will be old enough to remember But the connection between him being a club legend, not just for that, but just in general, and him being a manager, there's still a connection there because this club means everything to him, as well as us. He's like one of us in a way. Do you know what I mean?
Do you know what it is, right? People always say about football, like romanticism being a bad thing. So people kind of say like United fans supporting Ollie are romanticists, but isn't that what football's all about? Kind of
Yeah,
romanticism, because when you think about it, like at a very basic level, we just go and watch like 22 players kick a ball about, obviously, but
yeah.
like Ronaldo coming back is romanticism. Chelsea wanting to win a thing with Lampard is romanticism. The whole thing is romanticism, because
And even
otherwise
so,
you don't connect with it in any way. And I
yeah,
remember like
yeah,
literally one of the first games I remember in like in my life watching football. I think I was 6, and I remember watching Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's first game back after injury. I think it was against Fulham. It's 2006. I know it seems like a really long time ago, but that's
was
one of
it
my
the
first
game
memories.
that was it the game that iconic moment of Ronaldo scoring that in like the last minute that scored that won us the title?
No, it was
Okay, it must have been another game.
that's a different. That was the one where he took everyone on, wasn't it? Incredible goal.
Yeah, yeah,
It was the one. It was first game of the season, and we beat Fulham 5-1, and it was just after the World Cup. And obviously, in the World Cup, Rooney and Ronaldo had a lot of beef as well, and it was
yeah,
all a bit, you know.
yeah.
Yeah, I remember Solskjaer coming back for that and everything. But I mean, the point I was getting to is I don't just want him to be the manager because of romanticism. I back him, but I genuinely back him because I believe in him.
Yeah,
I've always quite heavily believed in him. I also subscribe to this idea of just backing your manager regardless. I get that.
I completely agree with you.
But I do genuinely believe in him. I wouldn't defend him as much as I do if I didn't. But also you
No,
can't deny that romanticism plays a part in top level sport. It just does. Like it's
yeah.
natural at every club. Like, you know, Liverpool winning the Champions League with Trent Alexander-Arnold, or you know, the class of
Or even like
92.
outside of football, for example, I'm not sure I know her story completely, but Emma Raducanu, I think her name is,
Mm,
the way she won, was it the US Open? I'm not 100% sure, but as like an 18-year-old girl to win that is sort of, sorry, it's sort of very like, it's a great story. It's like a
yeah.
romanticist story. If that sort of makes sense, I'm not sure if I've described that right.
No, you're completely right. And what we love as fans is to be kind of enchanted by something. You know, that's the whole reason we watch football, for the special moments, like you know, Ollie's goal in '99, obviously, but obviously what he
Yeah,
did for the club throughout his career. And we have the moments, you know, Wayne Rooney scoring on his debut, and going his whole career at United. It's romanticism. You get attached to players. It's
yeah,
natural. I mean, obviously in the modern era, there's less and less and less of that now, because managers don't tend to last as long. Arguably, players are disloyal. But my thing's always been, if you can't have an element of romanticism with Manchester United, what's the point? Because we've
yeah.
always found it. I hate to use this phrase because it gets mocked, and it's not. It's a bit of a weird phrase, but you know the whole United DNA thing, right?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
This whole
yeah,
thing of having young players coming through, like academy players coming through, and this idea of like kind of getting behind the team and backing the
yeah.
manager. And you know, I saw this clip on Twitter the other day of people in 1974, when we got relegated, on the pitch, like saying, you know, we'll support you forevermore and all that. That's
Oh
what it's
yeah, I
about.
remember you talking about that and saying you sort of answered someone's question in saying that I would still like go to the games and stuff like that.
Yeah.
We'd obviously be very upset, but
Oh
we'd
yeah,
still go
yeah.
to games and stuff like that.
Exactly, and that's what it's all about, you know. And there's a reason that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was so popular at the start of his reign, because I think even people who don't no longer want him to be there recognise that we'd been a bit of a we'd gone out of what Man United is for a few years, and he
Yeah,
came back in and he kind of put this emphasis on like players like Rashford, kind of young attacking, fast, exciting players,
yeah.
and Greenwood and McTominay, and that's kind of what we recognise. Now, obviously, with Ollie now, the situation's difficult, because the question isn't whether he's done a good job, because he has done a good job. I don't care what
100%.
anyone
Yeah,
says. He
yeah,
has.
yeah.
He's transformed this club around. But it's whether he can get us across the final finish line. I mean,
I
are you
really do hope so personally.
Oh yeah, I mean, this is a bit of a random question. Are you familiar with like politics or anything? So I've got a bit of a weird
Um,
analogy.
sort of. I speak about it a lot without knowing
Mm.
that much about it. So you can hit me with it. I may not know, but yeah.
So this is a really random analogy, right?
Okay.
Um, but like, so Labour in like the
Yeah.
mid to late 80s were in a lot. They were in a lot of trouble. They weren't getting elected. They were just so far gone. The policies were mad. The leader was unpopular, and they got Neil Kinnock in. And what Neil Kinnock did is he basically sorted it all out from the top to the bottom of the party. He completely kind of
I get it.
got
Yeah.
he brought it into the 20th century. You know, all the outdated practices that were going on, all the kind of outdated policies, the way of appealing to people. He got rid of all of that. He didn't quite win an election, but they won an election. The election afterwards was someone else
Yeah. Yeah.
because of what Neil Kinnock had done.
So like Ollie could be the man before the man, if that
He
makes
could,
sense. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. It's very possible that Ollie might end up being Neil Kinnock, but even it's such a weird analogy, I know, but even if he is that character, he's still done something brilliant because
Oh yeah.
he's took us from the brink, hasn't he?
Yeah, completely. Like, I like people say, for example, we finished second under Jose Mourinho, and we finished second under Oli. There's not much difference, but I would completely argue with that. I would say the stability of the club and the stability of the team, the happiness of the players and the fans, all plays a part into it. There's a lot more than just the table finish, although that is what inevitably matters at the end of the season. And I feel like the stability of the club now is a lot more stable than it was under Jose Mourinho. Whether that was Jose Mourinho's fault, whether that was Ed Woodward's fault, the Glazers, I think it all plays a part in general. However, Ollie has come in and he's sort of, people say he's this nice guy. I believe that. I do believe he's a nice man. Although to change the mood of a club like Manchester United around, I think you've got to have like some like balls of steel sort of thing.
Mm.
So like you can't just be a nice guy to change the mood around it, and to get rid of, like, for example, Fellaini pretty much instantly. It was
It was straight
very
away,
harsh.
wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, he came in straight away and got rid of Fellaini, which was really clever actually, because what Fellaini was, I think Fellaini did a lot of good for us, but what Fellaini was, is he was a literal symbol of the previous eras of
yeah.
long ball and just plan Bs and all this. And he got rid of a symbol of that era, even if, you know, Fellaini did well for us. He did stuff for us, but he's not, he's not a United player. He's just
No,
not at all.
no.
You know,
It
there's
never felt
brilliant.
like he was a United player as well. It just felt he's a. I weren't denying that he was a good player at the time of playing for us. I think he's like getting on in his career now, like towards the end. However, he just didn't suit us. Some players didn't suit
Mm,
us, and I could use that analogy again in terms of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and say some people say top teams wouldn't employ him, but it doesn't matter because it's whatever suits us. Do you know what I mean?
mm.
Maybe Jurgen Klopp wouldn't suit us. Like, maybe he would, maybe he wouldn't. We don't know. Um,
You're completely spot on in what you say, because the
yeah,
prime example of this at the moment as well is Conte. Conte is an absolutely brilliant manager. I'm not disputing that. He does
yeah,
brilliant things with teams. He does not suit United at all,
no,
because
he's
the
defensive.
idea is we're meant to be
Yeah,
different. Like, I've always kind of
we're
prided myself on,
pioneers of the game as well.
yeah, and that's how it should be. You know, the kind of traditions of the club, and that's what you kind of always pride yourself on as a United fan. Really, that's what
Yeah,
it's all about, isn't it? When you look at the traditions of the club and everything like that. And
yeah,
someone like
completely.
Conte doesn't fit us. Someone like Ole Gunnar Solskjaer fits us a lot better.
I completely
Um,
agree.
and you know, he, I still think as well he probably would get another job, because what he's actually demonstrated is he's tactically very good, and
Yeah,
in certain situations. But he's, I think, like, I was just thinking about this. If Brendan Rodgers left Leicester, they'd want someone like Ollie, because he's so brilliant at
yeah, I wouldn't be
forming kind of
surprised. Yeah,
counter-attacking football, isn't he?
yeah,
But I mean, hopefully it doesn't get to that, and hopefully.
no,
But do you know what though? Honestly, I think tomorrow night we'll know a lot. It's like a sliding doors moment, isn't it? I
yeah.
think it is. I
Yeah,
mean,
it's
whatever
sort of
happens,
a very nervous 24 hours leading up as well, because it
yeah,
sort of defines our season in a way. what are we going to have to do going forward this season to sort of progress? And I do believe there is genuine progression this season from last season, because just by numbers alone, seeing something like we've got 13 points so far, or 12 points, something like that. Right, whereas we only had 6 or 7 points last season from the same amount of games, from 6 games. So there is progression, and I think we're all nervous. It's obviously normal to be nervous for a game like this. It's a huge game, and we want to get some revenge on Villarreal for how they beat us. But
yeah, and it does. It feels a bit like the last Villarreal game, doesn't it? You're just thinking, oh my god, I'm terrified. But I think regardless of what happens tomorrow night, I think I know we're on the complete same page with this. We're still going to sing Ollie's name in the ground, and we're still going to support the team. And
sorry to interrupt there.
Yeah, it's right.
Even with like a player, for example, I'm just going to give the example. I don't really think that Anthony Martial's good enough for United at the moment. I will still chant his name in the ground. Obviously, cheer and go mental if he scores. But yeah, like you said, we'll always chant the players' names, etc. Like chant Phil Jones's name if he starts. Do you know what I mean? Just whoever's playing with that's our team. Do you know what I mean? They're our players, sort of thing.
That's exactly how it should be, because if you go into a ground as a supporter and you choose to not even not chant it, more if you start to boo your own players or your manager, then what's the point of being a supporter? Because obviously the very definition of a supporter is support. I know it's quite obvious, but that's what it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
And if you don't have that, what do you have? And I mean, even if I think if Jose, if we were in this position now with Jose, I'd be singing Jose's name. I think Ollie. I personally like Ollie now more as a manager than I like Jose, but I'd still be behind Jose, because I just think when you go into that ground, obviously you have freedom of speech, you can say whatever you want, but I think as a fan you should feel inclined to just support the team.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I feel like there's a massive sort of on social media, and I'm not just talking in football. I'm talking like in sort of like, let's say, politics, for example, or let's give the example of petrol in this country at the moment. People are obviously panic buying petrol, and I feel like there's a huge sort of overreaction at the moment in the world. Let's say before COVID, and I know it was sort of uncharted territory with COVID, but it was sort of a way of like everyone was panic buying toilet rolls. It's a weird analogy, this one, but I'm gonna refer that back to sort of Ollie or even the team. People saying this person needs to go now, even if I end up on the opinion where I don't think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is good enough, I will never say he needs to go now. I will back him until the very end. And I completely, I don't know whether you're on the same page there. I know you use very weird analogies there.
Yeah, we've both gone down some weird analogies today, haven't we?
yeah.
But yeah, no, I completely agree with what you're saying. I won't call for him to be sacked.
No.
Even if it gets to the point where I, in my head, think he's probably not going to last, I'm still going to support him at games. I'm not, because there's no value in me turning on a manager. It doesn't gain me anything. It doesn't
gain the club anything, because I feel like one person, well, a few people saying Ollie out isn't going to get him out. I understand that people are expressing their opinions. People are frustrated. I've just seen a chat here, by the way. Sorry to change the subject. Apparently N'Golo Kante has tested positive for coronavirus, according to the Almighty Blues. I've just got to sit up there. I'm not sure if that's 100% true. I've only just seen that now. If he has, I hope he gets better. Obviously, I'm sure he'll be okay. He's like one of the best athletes in the world. But
he's a lovely man, isn't he?
Yeah. I was actually saying in a group chat that I'm in before, imagine N'Golo Kante in our midfield. Saying it while I was at college on a break. Just imagine.
He would solve every single one of our problems. I mean, basically, if we just had Chelsea's midfield,
like the best midfield in the world. But sorry,
Jorginho, like Jorginho and Kante, it's insane. They're both such good footballers. But sorry, yeah, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, I know we've spent half an hour talking about United, but I'm going to move on to some other games if that's okay, so we can talk
Yeah, of
about them.
course.
So we'll just go on to the game that was literally at the same time, Chelsea versus City. I didn't manage to catch this game, obviously, I was at the game. I catched a few of the highlights. I know Gabriel Jesus scored, didn't he? I think. Yeah, he did. I just needed to confirm that there. But first time Pep's beaten Thomas Tuchel. I think Thomas Tuchel beat him 3 times within 6 weeks last season. I remember it because he beat him on that FA Cup semi-final. And I remember saying to my uncle, he's beat him twice now. And I sort of wished he didn't beat him at that point, because at that point I thought he's gonna get his number now. He's gonna sort of he's got to beat him eventually, and thank God he beat him this weekend rather than the Champions League final.
Yeah, I mean, I thought the exact same thing, because you think you don't beat someone 3 times. Like when he beat him the second time, I was thinking it's not going to happen again in the final.
Yeah,
but
I agree. Yeah,
I mean, it's an interesting game, that actually. I mean, one thing I will say about Pep is when he gets it right, he just gets it so right, doesn't he? Like he just gets it so spot on. And it seems a bit with Tuchel as well. I think he's brilliant, but when he gets it wrong, he gets it very wrong. You know, it seems they really did set up wrong, and he took the blame for that. And it's interesting. It's kind of like this Chelsea City thing. It's a bit like what United Chelsea rivalry used to be, because obviously Chelsea are more defensively orientated, and we used to be really attacking, and City are like that now. I mean, I was actually surprised City won, to be honest, because did you watch Chelsea against Spurs a couple of weeks ago?
Yeah, I did. I think so. Yeah, yeah. I think I did. Yeah, it was 3-0, wasn't it? Yeah, I did watch it. Yeah, I watched it. Yeah, I was on the Sunday, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah, I
and
remember.
I just looked at that game and just thought Chelsea look flawless, like completely and utterly flawless. So I was quite shocked that City beat them. But do you know what's happening now? This happens every single year. Is City will drop points in a couple of games at the start of the season,
and they'll come back like stronger than ever.
They're going to win about 50 games in a row now.
Yeah,
you know. But
it's scared of them though.
It's scary, isn't it? Because they always seem to do this. But no, they're both really good teams.
And Chelsea, like I know obviously we had people and sort of you were sort of like alluding to it, saying they looked unbeatable, and they did. Although I said they could go unbeaten, however, I realised how very rare it is for a team to go unbeaten. Obviously, Arsenal are the only team to ever do it, and that's not to say another team can't do it, but I just didn't believe this Chelsea team was as strong enough to go unbeaten. I believe that they're strong. Obviously, they just won the Champions League, the title challenges, but I don't believe they're strong enough to go unbeaten. I think they'll get beaten again. I think we could beat them if we perform on that day. Do you know what I mean? It'll probably be a 0-0 now. I've said it.
Yeah.
No,
I think you're right. That really could be 0-0.
I've seen some Chelsea fans saying that they're not happy with Thomas Tuchel as well. I'm not sure if you've seen this. Have you seen this?
They're not happy with him.
Yeah. I've seen them sort of calling him like sort of inappropriate names. I'm not going to like say the names on here, as I could get banned on YouTube if I say the actual name.
I think I know what you're alluding to, though.
Yeah,
I think I know what you're alluding to.
Yeah. I understand some of it's jokes, like from rifle fans, like us, for example. But like I would love it if Thomas Tuchel was our manager. Not that I would want Ollie out. Do you know what I mean? If he was our manager, I would. I think he plays a very good, effective style of play. Maybe it's not the best attacking, but it's very effective. I actually seen a video. I don't know if you've seen it. Also, there's 2 lads sort of at a nightclub talking to a girl in the queue, explaining Thomas Tuchel's style of play. It was very, very funny, that video. But yeah, they'll bounce back completely. Almighty Blue says, no way, Thomas Tuchel is the best. Love him. I always never realised how to actually pronounce his name. How do you pronounce it?
I say both.
Yeah, I think I do several times. Yeah.
But no, I mean he's done well, but obviously with Chelsea, there's a very big possibility he could be out the door in a few months. You just never know at that club.
No, anything could go wrong.
Di Matteo won the Champions League, and he was out the door. Like, was it October, November? I think.
Yeah. That was in 2012, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, and Mourinho as well out the door. Ancelotti, this was the harshest one. They sacked him in the tunnel for coming second.
Mental,
that's the thing with
sort of
Tuchel.
reminds me of how we sacked Louis van Gaal 2 hours after the FA Cup final.
Oh, that was horrible.
It wasn't United that.
No,
but
awful.
I would never want any club to sack the manager like that. I know Gary Neville's going through it at the moment, going through some trouble with Salford City. He sort of admitted it himself. But we'll move on to Leeds West Ham, and I'm very sort of excited to talk about Michail Antonio here because I've been hyping him up since the last, just after Project Restart. He was very, very good in keeping West Ham up. I know they were in a relegation scrap at that point, and then they did very, very, very well last season, although he got injured a few times. And this season he started off flying, hasn't he?
Yeah, I mean, he looks really good. I mean, he scored this goal against Leicester where he flicked the ball up over and
I was
scored.
watching it, I remember,
And he looks like a really good player. I mean, what I can't believe about him is he's 31.
He's very physical. He's always running about, and that's what I love about him. I look at certain players. I'm just going to give an example here, like Anthony Martial, for example. And I have given this example for a reason as well, because I always wonder to myself, Anthony Martial was very good just after lockdown. So what happened? And it looks like that he's not worked as hard. I don't know whether something's gone on in like sort of a mental block. But Michail Antonio was a nightmare to play against because he's always running about and he's very physical. He's very strong. And some players just don't work hard and expect the ball just to be given to them. And
he's really developed to an incredible extent because he was playing at right back.
Madness, like he's scoring loads of goals now, and you're thinking, how could he have been playing at right back? It's so mad.
I mean, it reminds me a bit of obviously not to the same level, but with Bale, where how was this footballer playing at fullback?
Yeah,
who was that good going forward? But I mean, West Ham are a really impressive football team. Actually, I think David Moyes,
he's building something special there. I think
really special, and they just look good every week. It's not. They don't look like one season wonders. They're able to score goals. They've got so much creativity in there.
They've got sorry, I was just about to say signing. Sorry for interrupting there. I do interrupt a lot.
No, his signings have been absolutely incredible. Every single one of them has been brilliant. I mean, Kufal and Zuchek, we could do with them. We really could. A holding midfielder and a right back. He's done great. I mean, what do you think about Leeds though?
I think they could be suffering from second season syndrome. Now, I'm gonna say that with take that with a pinch of salt, Alexei and whoever's watching this, because it's obviously a very reactionary comment after 6 games in, and I'm saying a lot of people are being reactionary about, for example, United not being title challengers, but they haven't looked good. They've got a few great players. Obviously, they've got Rafinha, Bamford's good, and they've got a good manager, but they just don't look. They don't look the same, and they haven't looked the same since that 5-1 when we beat them 5-1.
I mean, my friend's a Leeds fan, and he messaged me the other day, and he said, I really think we're going down, genuinely, because there's injuries. It's not a lot of squad depth. No, and I think what's happened, if I'm completely honest, is I just think teams have worked Leeds out.
Yeah.
That seems to be what's happened. It seems like Brentford are the new Leeds now.
Brentford look very good. We'll move on to that now, actually. Brentford, I actually tweeted, I know people won't be able to see that tweet now as my account's not there, but I actually tweeted just before that Brentford and Liverpool game, I don't think Liverpool fans should think this is an easy game. It's far from an easy game for the Scousers. It's definitely not an easy game. And I don't think it's going to be when we play them either. But Brentford, they do look really good, and they looked good against Arsenal. And people could say that that's Arsenal. That's just you expected them to lose there, and I sort of did expect them to lose. But it, I loved how Brentford just kept going back at them, no matter what. Keep going back at them. The goal line clearance from, was it Daniel Ayer? I think his name was. And then Jan Elst with the goal line clearance as well, and he scored. They look very good, don't they?
They look frightening. I mean, I did a preview with one of my friends on another channel before the season started, and we were talking about Brentford, and he said he just thought they'd come in 20th. And I was like, no, because they've got this manager who's been there for a while. They've got players who've been there for a while, and you can't underestimate the importance of that and how well they gel. But yeah, I mean, the way they played was incredible. I mean, it was like a proper Premier League match, that, wasn't it? And
completely
got quality everywhere. And I mean, I know it's the obvious one to pick out. There is other great players in that team, but Ivan Toney, my God, he looks so good.
Yeah, completely. I've mentioned a tweet of his as well. I don't know whether you've seen it. Someone like he was sort of doing, I think, of like a sort of Q&A on Twitter just before the season, and someone said, "Where do you expect to finish?" And it was, I guess, it was what you would call a tongue-in-cheek comment from Ivan Toney, and saying we expect to finish top of the league. But the mentality of a club that's just come up to have that mentality is part of why that they're so good at the moment. Do you know what I mean? That mentality of we're aiming to win every single game, and we're not going to win every single game, but whether we do or not, we've tried our best. Do you know what I mean?
There's no fear with them at all. There's no inferiority complex. I mean, we saw that against Liverpool and Arsenal, and actually against Wolves a few weeks ago. I watched them. I think it was the 12:30 one.
Yeah, I remember we had a sort of interaction on Twitter there, and you said it was proper top level Barclays, didn't you?
Yeah, it was. It was amazing. It was really good football, and I think that's a change with the Premier League as a whole. That teams like Brentford look really, really great. But I think what's going to happen with them this season is they're going to have some really good results, and they're going to have some absolute shockers.
Oh yeah,
where I think they will just get battered. But I think they're going to come. I think there could be 6, 7 teams worse than them. I mean, just looking at it, I think they could get maybe 12th, 11th place. And, they've got a good defence. They've got a really good goal scorer, and they've got a good manager. That's what you need to stay up, isn't it?
Yeah, completely. I completely agree with you. And the feel around that club, the feel sort of a real togetherness with the fans, with like you say, with the manager, with the players, and obviously there's a picture with the manager going to hug, I think, a disabled fan, like after they beat Arsenal, and that was a sort of a very iconic picture, not just for Brentford fans, but I've actually got that picture saved on my phone because it's so like. That like you were saying before about like romanticism in football, it's so like that's what I love about football. Do you know what I mean? That sort of it's everybody's game, and actually I didn't mean to do like a sort of mention of this and a sort of like segue into this, but we know that the people taking the knee was getting some boos last season. However, I've noticed that Old Trafford, especially, it's been getting clapped massively.
Yeah.
And I just want to say, if you have been to any football ground or if you are supporting that, and I am, there's a possibility that in college I might be doing a project with a theatre in Manchester to do with the Black Lives Matter movement. I obviously can't relate to it completely, but with some black people. So if you can relate to that, drop me a message on my new Twitter, and I will sort of try and get your advice and sort of go into that with a project. And I'll speak about this more on the channel as well. Sorry to sort of ramble on there. It was sort of a thing that I needed to mention.
You're bang on there. I mean, I really noticed it the other day, actually, when they took the knee. Everyone was clapping and everything. It was really heartwarming, actually, because, you don't want any of that booing and nonsense. Because, I mean, obviously we won't get into this too much because it's a
very deep and political topic, but it's not a political movement. The sort of taking the knee, it's a symbolic movement in the sense of.
And I always
actually learned about it as well with Colin Kaepernick that started it.
Yeah, and when people boo it, you say, "What are you booing? What is it you're actually booing? Like what?
Yeah, you're
why
right,
are you booing people for trying to kind of fight against racism? It just doesn't make any sense to me at all.
No,
but
completely agree. completely agree. We'll move on from that though. I want to speak about Watford and Newcastle here. 1-1. Newcastle going through a lot of turmoil right now, aren't they? Not just as a
Mm.
team, but as a club. I was watching the Friday night football a few weeks ago. Can't remember who was playing, but Gary
Oh, the
Neville and
Leeds
Jamie.
on it.
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
Mm.
Gary Neville was sort of and Jamie Carragher was sort of doing a piece on. I think they'd interview people during the day on the Newcastle possible takeover, and that day Newcastle fans had protested against the Premier League for blocking the takeover. See, I'm not sure about like I don't know the whole details of who's trying to take them over, etc. But I know that can have a massive effect on the players. Do you know what I mean? And the team as general, and the manager, obviously Steve Bruce. It can have a massive effect because it affects the mood during like that in training every day, stuff like that. You can't just expect to go out there and win when there's such a huge thing going on at them. Like for example, with Derby, Rooney seemed emotional in the sort of in the interviews that he's done. And I'm just giving an example there because of another club going through turmoil. But I do hope, I would never wish bad owners upon anyone. So I do hope Newcastle get taken over by good owners. I know Mike Ashley's not been good for them. So, but did you manage to catch any of this match at all? Like, I didn't.
I've seen the goals.
Okay, yeah, fair enough.
But you know, I mean, Watford are quietly doing all right at the moment because they drew obviously this one, but they beat Norwich last week as well.
Yeah,
and they got a win against Villa. So Watford are doing all right, kind of quite quietly, just picking up some points. But
yeah.
Newcastle, the thing is, every time I watch Newcastle, they don't look that bad. Like
No,
when
they
they
look
came
like
to
they're
Old
playing quite
Trafford,
well, don't they?
yeah, when they came to Old Trafford, I thought they looked decent, you know. And I watched that Newcastle Leeds match as well, and I thought they were pretty good in that at points. They're just not getting wins. And I mean, there's a theory. I don't know if I have to say allegedly for this. I might have to say allegedly.
Yeah, that's
Allegedly,
fair enough. Yeah,
there's a theory that the reason Steve Bruce was left in place by Mike Ashley last season is so Newcastle will get relegated and then he'd be able to sell them to the Saudi Arabian owners. Because obviously,
okay.
if they were relegated, they wouldn't have Premier League rules protecting them,
Yeah,
stopping them, from selling to the Saudi Arabian owners. So there is a rumor, or there's talk that that's the reason Steve Bruce is still there, in order to actually get them relegated. And then Steve Bruce proved them wrong and stayed up, which is
yeah,
funny. But
yeah.
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me.
No, it wouldn't. I think a lot of stuff goes on like that, especially at Newcastle with Mike Ashley, who's not a very nice man in general with all of his businesses.
Mm.
Like I know about how the way he sort of treated like sports direct owners and
Oh,
stuff
it's
like that.
awful. Yeah.
Sorry, not owners, but employees. But yeah, I do hope that like the best in terms of getting new owners for Newcastle. Like we know what it's like to have like the worst of the worst owners. Do you know what I mean? The owners that have done something very unforgivable in April. And this does get mentioned quite a lot on this channel. And I know it doesn't get mentioned that much on social media anymore. But I feel like it's such a thing that it's such a big thing that it's very hard to forget something like that. I remember going to the Fulham game just after lockdown when there was 10,000 fans. And it was sort of a very emotional, like I sort of looked up like and thought a Super League would have been played here. It's like mad, you know what I mean? It's like sort of gets you sort of really emotional when you're there and you're thinking, this is mad, this.
Do you know what? That game was like the first time since I was like a kid where I've gone in the ground and been like, oh my God, we're back. We're in the ground. You know, it's all, you know, because it came right after the Super League stuff and everything like that. I mean, you know, the reason the Super League was so bad is because it would have taken away our right to get beaten by Young Boys and beaten by Aston Villa.
And yet we get upset about this. It's obviously, we obviously get upset when we're beaten, and every team has the right to. But it's very like hypocritical from all of us football fans, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's the thing, you know, and in football, you don't experience the highs aren't any good unless you've experienced some lows. You know, we got relegated 6 years after winning the European Cup. I mean, that's ludicrous. And then we went 20, 30 years, and then we won a title. And that weight means the people, obviously I wasn't alive then, but the people who, I mean, my dad witnessed it. He witnessed the relegation and then the title. Those two things make a relationship where the win becomes better because you've seen such awful things before.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah.
And it, you know, look at like Leeds are an example of this. They've been gone for ages and come back. You know, Liverpool, think they went 30 years, and same with us. When we next win a Premier League or a Champions League, it will be the most satisfying one
And
I've
the
ever seen us
parade is
win.
going to be unbelievable. I remember the last
Oh
parade.
yeah,
People were on top of like lampposts and stuff like that. It was like obviously a very, very crazy day. I was very young, but I remember it. It's a day that I'd never forget. In town, it was unbelievable, and I can't wait for that again. It's something like that that sort of keeps you like the hope as a fan. It sort of keeps you going, doesn't it? Like in case we win.
honestly, imagine how good it would be. Just like, just seeing us lift the title and then just, I think we'd all go out in town and just not come back for a few days.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Can't wait for it. But we'll get on to Leicester Burnley now. And this is very interesting because they've not started the season well. And I know they've got Wesley Fofana injured, which is a very, very bad injury. I remember the video the night it happened, but they've just not started very well. Jamie Vardy looks like he's back on form. He is back on form. And so is not so it's, but Leicester are not picking up many points despite just winning the FA Cup last season, and it was a great celebration. Leicester are sort of team that I look upon as like that's the model in the sense of you wouldn't see Joel Glazer running onto Old Trafford pitch like their owner. I'm not sure how you pronounce his name. You wouldn't see Joel Glazer doing something like that. And it's such a beautiful thing to see in football because it's so rare. I know Roman Abramovich loves Chelsea and does support Chelsea, but he's obviously got other things going on that are bad. But their owners seem very, very, very sort of model owners. And I hope they don't get relegated, but I think there's an outside chance. It sounds stupid to say, but they're not picking up many points.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult, isn't it? I mean, I think you're right in saying the way they're run is really good. But do you know what the problem is at the moment is? Even from 3 games ago, the league looks completely different. And you know, Leicester could go and win the next 4 games and suddenly be
everything will change.
Top.
Yeah,
and you know, because a couple of weeks ago, Tottenham were top and Arsenal were bottom.
Yeah.
Now I think Arsenal are above Tottenham, but I mean, yeah, I think in terms of Leicester and Burnley, they always have their little struggles at points, but I think they always recover quite well. Burnley seem to lose about 15 games in a row and then suddenly find the points from somewhere.
Yeah, I think Sean Dyche is one of the most underrated managers in this league.
He is,
it's quite like a. I wouldn't say it's a bold statement. It's just a statement that doesn't get said very often. That is, in my opinion, very, very true. He's obviously working on like a shoestring budget. I think in the last 2 years they've spent like £1 million net spend. Like it's unbelievable how he's keeping that team up. It's like massive respect to him.
Yeah, he's done a really, really good job. And yeah, Brendan Rodgers has done a great job at Leicester. I mean, it's just I think the way they might struggle badly this season is because of Europa League again and Thursday, Sundays. It's difficult, and you know, I guess they'll have it this week. I don't know who they're playing on Sunday.
I'm not 100% sure,
but they'll play Thursday and Sunday, and they've not got the biggest squad. But I think they'll be okay, Leicester. But I do wonder if this era of them being in the top 5 might have gone.
Yeah, might have gone. Yeah, I agree with you. I think many teams are getting better. We're a lot better than we were, despite obviously being way above them last season. Chelsea are a lot better than they were. A lot of teams are a lot better than they were. I think the only team that can't be any team in this league in this league currently is Norwich. They just don't look like getting a win at all. I sort of like I sort of was saying to my uncle, it was sort of a joke when City were beating Norwich. It was like 4-0 at the time. So I said it winds me up how bad Norwich are every single time
Yeah,
they're in the Premier League.
it's
It
it's
obviously doesn't.
annoying.
They deserve to be here. They've got promoted, but it's sort of like, how are they not? How are they this bad, but in this league?
They should just like they should just say no next time. Like it
Yeah,
it just it is annoying because we all said at the start of the season, are they going to do their thing of going straight back down? And I kind of thought they probably are, but surely they'll get one win in there, one good result. They've just lost every game,
yeah.
and
They
it's
don't look
just
like getting any point at all.
no. And do you know why? To me, it was so obvious this would happen. It's a worse squad than the last time they were in this league
Yeah,
with the same manager.
yeah.
What's going to
Completely agree.
change?
I'm sort of saying at the moment, for example, last Wednesday when we played West Ham, I didn't actually go to the game because I know you've got to sort of opt into going to Carabao Cup games, and my uncle hasn't done that. However, I remember saying when seeing the lineup and even discussing the lineup walking to the gym a few days before that, where do the goals sort of come from? And you sort of think that with Norwich, but on a much larger extent. Teemu
Mm,
Pukki's he's good, but he's not Premier League quality. I know he had that
no, it's
great
not.
month in the Premier League, but like, where do the goals come from with them? Do you know what I mean? You can't see.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're completely right. There's no goals. There's no real source of creativity, and it's just like I feel sorry for their fans because it must be so weird being bottom of one league one year and then the next year just beating everyone in the other league. So
yeah.
one year you win every week, the next year you lose every week. Um, but I mean, it's a shame because obviously Brandon's there at the moment, and
And
he's just
I
gonna.
wouldn't have chose to go there on loan if I was him.
You're better
Um,
off going to the championship. You're better
yeah,
off going to a top level championship team where you're going to win every week because
yeah,
just getting battered every week, I don't see how it's going to help him at all. It
yeah,
reminds me a bit of when Januzaj went to Sunderland,
yeah.
and obviously Sunderland being Sunderland, they were just terrible. Like,
Yeah,
and
yeah, and it's sort of like I sort of think, why did Brandon choose to go there? Like I can
it's
understand he's not
weird.
getting much game time, but surely he would have had other options. Surely, like I don't think he's. What I always say about Brandon Williams is in 2019 and early 2020, I think he was. Yeah, I was saying he's going to be our future left back. Do you know what I mean? Like
Mm,
he's a great player. But because of how good Luke Shaw has been, you sort of say about Brandon Williams, he sort of like exposes how average he was,
mm.
and not in like I'm slandering this player way, in a way that Luke Shaw has been very, very good, like one of the best left backs in the world. Um,
I had a phase actually. I think it was like December, January, in Ollie's first full season, where I was like, "Yeah, Brandon Williams, he's going to be best fullback in the world. He's better than Shaw. He's
yeah.
better than everyone." And then I think we got beat 3-0 by City, and I was
Oh
like,
yeah, I remember. Yeah,
"Oh yeah, maybe he's not." I think he was thrown in before I think he was planned to be thrown in,
yeah,
and he was really good at the start, and then he suddenly just looked very, very raw.
yeah.
I hope he
And he's a
goes
young
away and
lad that
improves.
loves fighting as well. Like,
Yeah,
like he is, and we're not saying that just because he's a young lad. Like he's a young lad that loves. I remember when he threw Hudson-Odoi over the board.
yeah, he did.
I think that was in the FA Cup, and it was the same game Rashford scored that free kick. Um,
Mm,
I actually wasn't at that game. I think it was at Stamford Bridge anyway. But yeah, like for these moments, I'll remember him. But I just don't think he's United quality, and I wouldn't have chose to go to Norwich. I think that sort of symbolises the end of his career at United. Do you agree?
yeah, because
Yeah.
he, I just don't see how him going to Norwich will make him a better player. And if he remains at the same level as he was before, and Solskjaer didn't think he was good enough then, I don't see how if he comes back the same or maybe worse that he'll
No.
get in the team. I mean, I hope he does well. I hope he proves me wrong, but
Yeah.
he's in danger as well of getting stuck in the loan carousel that Ethan Laird, Dylan Levitt, Fosu Mensah was in it for ages.
Yeah.
That you just constantly go on loan every year and then suddenly you're 24 and you've not
Yeah.
really played and
Yeah.
you're like,
Yeah.
better leave.
Spot on. Yeah. Spot on. You're spot on there. We'll go on to the Sunday's games now. Obviously, uh, we're on the last 3 games now at the moment. We'll start off with Arsenal Spurs because it was just a very good game to watch, especially the first half. I sort of tweeted before that game saying I don't mind who loses here if there's a winner in this game. It's not a draw because it's sort of funny to laugh at Spurs, and I find it funny to laugh at Arsenal. So, and they're not they're not direct rivals in the league at the moment with us. So I didn't mind. However, how did Spurs start so bad? How was it so bad that they're worse off now than they were under Mourinho? And I didn't think that could happen.
They looked like it looked like end game manager performance, didn't it?
Yeah.
Like last performance before a manager gets sacked, because they just looked so hopeless and they weren't really running. And what summed it up is like Kane, like, oh my God. The way he just lost the ball and just kind of did this weird little run back, and he just didn't look that bothered.
And he's just strolling around like he's not really that bothered. And I sort of myself put myself in this situation as if I'm at United, my boyhood club, and I've had a conversation about something similar to this today in terms of our links with Calvin Phillips. But if I'm at United, my boyhood club, I would never, and I assume you're the same, I would never just stroll about like I don't really care.
No, of course.
Whether I wanted to leave or not, that's my boyhood club, and it's something that I really hold to myself. It means a lot to me, like the boyhood club thing. I love Rashford more because of it. I love what he does off the pitch, what he does on the pitch, and because it's his boyhood club and he's very loyal to us. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, whereas, you're completely right. And sorry to interrupt, but it links to what we were saying earlier about the romanticism.
Yeah.
It's the exact same thing. That's something that's changed in football now, that before, more often than not, if a big established player who'd become good would stay at a club for their whole career, so like John Terry, Ryan Giggs, Paul Scholes, Totti, Xavi, Iniesta, Jamie Carragher, there's loads of them, Gary Neville. That's changed now, hasn't it? And you, like you said, you're now seeing Kane, who, he's a boyhood Spurs fan and all this, and yet he's just strolling about. And how have we got there? I don't know if it's a modern game thing or it's a thing personal to him.
Well,
but
it's something that I sort of was I suppose you would say going on about it on Twitter when Grealish went to City, and it weren't just because Grealish was going to City, it was because, like, I've got one of my best friends is a Villa fan, and he was sort of saying it's sort of a very strange thing. I know Villa. I would say Villa are arguably a little bit better than Spurs at the moment. However, it's sort of a thing that I would never be able to leave United myself. Like I really wouldn't want to, no matter where we are. And it seems like you were saying that sort of loyalty has sort of gone with a lot of players. And I even mentioned it last night. Someone tweeted like which young player is going to have the most impact in football. And I sort of said something a little bit outside the box in that I said every young player, because a lot of young players are leaving the clubs that they've grown up at in search of big contracts. And it's very unfortunate. It really is very unfortunate, because it's like, what a story that could have been, for example.
Once you lose that kind of romanticism and link to a club, what have you got left, really?
Exactly.
It's just, like, what's the point? And I was really disappointed with Grealish, that he went to City, because if you go to Real Madrid, fair enough, like, it's Real Madrid.
Yeah, of course.
Different country. It's kind of like boyhood dream.
Yeah.
But, like, City, really?
Yeah.
Like, it's just selling your soul for a couple of medals. It's not, even if I hate Liverpool, but at least they're like a established club with a lot of tradition. If he goes
a lot
there,
of fans.
You go, at least he's going to be a part of something.
Yeah.
That's been developed over 100 years.
Yeah.
They've got a lot of fans, they've got a lot of tradition. But going to City, it's just like, it's so empty,
Yeah.
How can someone
it sort of looks like it means nothing as well? It's sort of like, it looks like it means sort of very heartless sort of the way they are winning things. It's sort of very I I saw it's this. It takes me back to the City versus Dortmund game. I know they're playing PSG tonight, and I think they played them last year in the Champions League too. But City versus Dortmund last year, and there was not many fans there, but it was very. You could see Dortmund putting their all into it. The fans, mainly, I'm talking about here. I know them obviously, the team as well, but City team do put all into it. But the fans really play a part in football. Obviously, fans are football basically, but without fans like City, and I'm not just having a joke here. I'm genuinely saying it. Like, it's sort of unnatural the way they've grown. They would never have grown in this way without that owner. And I even mentioned something else. Whether that if them owners left now, let's say we found out 10 minutes that they sold the club, that I don't think the City will be a sustainable business model to remain.
No, it's not at all. And it's like you said, I don't know. It's a bit like buying a game and just skipping all the levels, isn't it? It just feels kind of empty. And
yeah,
I think City wouldn't seem too much of a joke if they stayed in their old ground, but going to the new ground as well, that's just clearly too big for them. It loses any kind of authenticity at all for their club. Like, if they were still at Main Road and it was kind of like, the more compact grounds, they generate more atmosphere.
Yeah,
like Upton Park. Like,
I'd probably get woken up if they were at Main Road. It's funnily enough, Main Road, where it is, well, where Main Road was, where the actual pitch was, is the primary school that I went to.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, it's called Divine Mercy. It's literally on the where the car park is of the school. It's literally the pitch, and where the ground was. It's sort of a mad thing because I don't know whether you've heard of this film, and it is one of my favorite football films, Jimmy Grimble. It's filmed there. Do you know what I mean? It's that's filmed a few minutes away from me. Yeah. So yeah, it's sort of I would get woken up in the mornings if they were playing or whatever. Do you know what I mean? or do you know what I mean? But either way, like you say, it's not authentic. We'll move on though to Southampton 0 Wolves 1, and it's one of the most boring games I've ever watched. I thought maybe it could be a good game, but it was a very very dull game. But what was nice was to see Raul Jimenez get that goal. It was it was about obviously a terrible injury.
That's the story from this game, isn't it? I think it's really nice to see him get that goal. Wolves finally being clinical, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, they played really well against us, but didn't score. Southampton played quite well against us as well. I mean, I think I really thought Southampton would go down at the start of the season.
So did I, actually.
It's still possible because they do tend to have a pretty good start and then fall off a cliff. But like I said with Brentford earlier, there's a lot of teams worse than Southampton. I mean, you just look at and go, Newcastle, Norwich, Leeds, Watford maybe probably worse than them. It's a fair amount of teams that are worse, so they probably will stay up. But
I can see Ralph Hasenhüttl going. There was a point in the game where the camera focused on him for quite a while, and I don't know if you've seen this. He looked very, very stressed out, more than most managers, more than he ever has done, except for when he cried when they beat Liverpool. But he looked very, very stressed, and I don't know why. It was sort of a very maybe he knows it's sort of he's coming to the end of his career at Southampton as a manager. It looks like he could be going, but I've got massive respect for him. But because to continue to not walk away from losing 9-0 twice, to bring the dressing room back and even get one win again after that, it's a huge thing to do as a manager. I genuinely do believe that.
That's the thing, isn't it? Who's going to beat them 9-0 this year?
It could be us again.
Oh, imagine.
We scored 9 goals in 2 league games at home. Obviously, the last few home games have been very disappointing, but hopefully we do it again. First time I've ever seen us win 9-0, and I've watched those against Ipswich on on cassette or not cassette, the VHS.
The videos. Yeah. VHS. Yeah. We used to have we probably still do at my parents' home, like loads of videos of just random United games and season
Yeah,
like
yeah,
reviews and stuff. I don't think
yeah.
they do them anymore because I guess you can just
Oh
watch it on
no.
YouTube.
Yeah,
But
yeah, a lot of stuff's on YouTube and on like archived. Even United MUTV have got a lot of stuff, haven't they? A lot of footage now.
mm,
But we'll go on to Crystal Palace Brighton now. Admittedly, I didn't get to. I watched the first half of this game. However, I was very tired after like a long day in college, so I didn't watch the whole of the game. I didn't see the equaliser from Neil Maupay. I did see the goal today. It was a very good goal. It was like a lobbed him, didn't he, sort of thing. But
well,
Wilfred Zaha has scored 5 in 5 games against Brighton. I don't know if you heard that against from the
yeah.
commentator.
I mean, do you know what that struck me from this game? I saw most of it. Palace and Brighton both look very good, and
Yeah,
I'm very surprised about that because when Vieira came in, I was thinking, yeah, that's not lasting. That's
no,
another Frank de Boer. But they looked really good in that game. They had obviously they scored and then they had that chance with Ayew to finish the game, which they missed. But yeah, Palace looked really good, but Brighton equally look like a really good football team, don't they? They
yeah,
create so much. They play really good football, and that's kind of proper spirit, isn't it? Scoring a goal right at the end. And Graham Potter's doing what he's doing with like, the team's not that great, is it? Like if you
no,
put, I know obviously it's obvious, but if you put like Ronaldo as their striker, the
yeah.
amount of
They'd
like
be.
chances they create, they'd probably win the league.
They were top. I
Like,
think they were top of the XG table for many weeks last season.
yeah,
And I always said that. Well, me and my uncle always agreed on this. If they had a good striker, there would be maybe even a top 6 team at a push. Like genuinely, I think they're quite good. That like, you know what I mean. And Graham Potter's a very good manager. I'm not sure why Spurs didn't go for him over Nuno. However, I can
yeah.
see why they did go to Nuno, but yeah,
I think it
yeah,
it's possible that he might be the manager that replaces Nuno, Graham Potter.
yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah,
Um,
Conor Gallagher looks good as well, doesn't he? On Crystal Palace, I think he's on loan from Chelsea again, isn't he?
yeah, but
Yeah,
everyone's on loan from Chelsea, aren't they?
yeah, yeah. Everyone always is. I always say he looks like the YouTuber I'm Alex. I don't know whether you've seen I'm Alex.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
yeah,
he does actually.
I always say that, but I thought he looked good. I think he was at West Brom on loan, wasn't he, last season?
Mm,
Yeah,
yeah,
and he looked good there.
he looks like a really good player.
Yeah,
And just generally the quality in both sides was kind of impressively good because Palace had a proper kind of clear out of their squad.
yeah.
Um, but they still look like a decent football team, and Vieira is actually clearly doing something there.
And they're
And
getting a few French players in, aren't they? I think they've got Odson Edouard in. I think they've got a few French players in. I'm not sure exactly who else, but yeah,
Edouard is a quality signing. Like
yeah,
he's really, really top player. I mean, I'm surprised no one else got him, to be honest. But I guess when you have someone like Vieira as your manager,
definitely
it
attractive
helps.
to go there. Yeah, yeah,
He's got that pull. But yeah, I mean, it shows how good the Premier League is that a game like Palace Brighton is that exciting now. Because
oh
before,
yeah, yeah.
like you just go like Palace Brighton, like, ugh.
Well, I
But
remember
now,
last season. I assume you will have known. Bar the box office. Few weeks. There was games on, especially on Saturday. There was games on 12:30, 3 p.m., 5:30 p.m., and then 8 p.m. So, like I know this was because people couldn't go to non-league grounds, sort of thing, and that's why there is 3 p.m. games to get people to go to non-league grounds. However, that's what got me through like lockdown, like that the spending like 8 hours each Saturday watching
oh,
football.
I
I
know.
loved it, and I would do it again. I would want that again. I would want Premier League to do that again. I know they can't. They're probably not allowed to do that due to like EFL rules and stuff like that. To like I say with non-league grounds and stuff like that. But it's been the game week in general as a sort of general analysis conclusion. It's been sort of a very disappointing game week for United fans, for us, but a very entertaining game week. at the same time. And we were very lucky as United fans that as well as United in general, that Liverpool dropped points and Chelsea dropped points. We're only 1 point off. So any of us who's watching this, like fellow United fans, let's not like think it's the end of the world. We can still bounce back. Let's hope we do bounce back tomorrow. What score are you predicting tomorrow?
5-0.
Yeah, I'll go with 3-0. I'll just go with 3-0.
I don't know if I believe what I just said, but
no,
romanticism.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Mm.
We're gonna end that there, though. Thank you very much for coming on, mate.
Yeah, pleasure. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah, same. Yeah, completely. This has been Kian. That's been Alexei. I do hope I'm pronouncing your name right. I'm sorry if it's wrong.
No, it's all right. Don't worry.
From Football Obsession, and we're out.